Hello, friends. Welcome aboard the Round Trip Stories podcast, where we share stories of moving around the world and back again, reflecting on the lessons we've learned along the way. My name is Melissa.
And my name is Tracy, and we are so glad you're joining us for today's episode. Welcome back to part 2 of our interview with Kat Borba, teacher, supporter of overseas missionaries, and mother of 3. As a newly married couple in their mid-20s, she and her husband became missionaries to Sapporo, Japan for 3 years. They had hoped to stay for much longer, but after diagnosing their daughter with Moebius syndrome, they knew they needed to return back to the U.S. for a time and season. Reentry was harder than she was given permission to feel, but a week of debriefing and renewal helped her focus on giving herself permission to feel both the yays and the yucks and to re-enter slowly. Kat's stories show us that transition back can be overwhelming, but as the chaos subsides, we can find our place and passions again. So, buckle your seatbelts and make sure your tray tables and seats are in their upright positions as part 2 of Kat's round trip story gets ready for takeoff. All right, and we are back for the second part of your stories, Kat, and we're going to be talking about coming back. Remind us where you lived abroad and how long you were there.
So we lived in Sapporo, Japan, in the island of Hokkaido. We were there for a little over 3 years.
And then tell us about when and why you returned. And it sounds like you had some kids added to the mix, so tell us about that.
So I mentioned earlier, our position was a 3-year position, church planting associates. And the goal of that is give you 3 years before they give you a career term, right? Before you're like officially on long term. Initially, we went in with the goal that we were going to be there long term. We were going to start with the 3 years and then transition into the full-blown church multiplier, church planter role. Our first daughter, was born in Japan when we had been there a little over a year, and we didn't know it at the time. It took us a few months to figure out, probably about 5 months to figure out that she had a very rare neurological condition called Moebius syndrome. And what Moebius syndrome is it affects the 6th and 7th cranial nerves and their ability to pass the message from the brain to the facial muscles. So although she's fully neurotypical, brilliant little girl, her face doesn't receive the signal her brain is telling it. And so when she's happy, her cheeks don't go up like typically happens. Her eyes don't abduct outwards, so she can't look laterally left and right. And it wasn't until we were at a playgroup together when she was about 5 months old that I saw her and this little baby together playing, and this little tiny baby next to her was doing all of the baby facial motions. And I'm like, what? My baby doesn't do those things. What's going on? And so I went home that day and I was Googling, my baby can't smile, and Moebius syndrome popped up. And Jillian looked like all those sweet little babies with Moebius syndrome. We went back for a diagnosis and learned from a doctor in America. Okay, so here are some of the things you'll need to know. We don't really need to do anything in the meantime, but when she's 2, you'll probably want to enroll her in speech therapy. Well, what do you know? Her second birthday coincided exactly with the end of our 3-year term.
Okay.
So, we made that decision to come home. Felt like God was telling us that for this time and this season that we needed to be in America for Jillian for speech therapy. I was pregnant when we came home from Japan, so had our son in America, and then eventually our youngest daughter, here as well.
So, Kat, tell us a story now about your initial reentry transition back to life in the U.S.
It felt harder than I felt like I had permission to feel. Japan was the best of times and the worst of times for us, right? We had a baby who was diagnosed with a rare disorder there. I came home pregnant with a 2-year-old, and my husband didn't have a job yet when we touched down. He was still in the process. We knew that God was going to take care of us in that, but he didn't yet have any contract signed. That didn't happen for another month.
Right.
And so it was really hard. But from people on the outside, it was, oh, you just came back from a fun 3-year vacation, but not recognizing how hard it was. We went through a reentry process at an amazing organization, MTI. So as we were there doing our debrief and renewal at this organization, we were meeting with other people who had been in other parts of the world for varying times. We met with another family who'd been in Burkina Faso for a dozen years, 12 or 13, and had moved home with their 3 children. We met people who were in Mexico and who had to, their organization made them come back because their pastor was shot in front of them in the street. Like, it was a variety of trauma that everyone was dealing with some common themes of like international life and needing to process these things. And so even through that process, learning so they were very adamant, like, you have permission to feel what you're feeling. There's yays and there's yucks in every context, whether or not you were the person whose pastor was shot in front of them, or you were in deep Africa for 13 years with your 3 children, right? Like, there's a span. It's okay. And it was wonderful in that place to feel permission to acknowledge that our story, our portion of our story, was hard and beautiful all at the same time. But coming back even from that, I was telling one of my relatives about our time at debriefing and renewal, and I remember she said to me, well, why would you need to do that? You were in Japan for 3 years. That's not a hard place. It's like, I've been to Asia. It's fine. Yeah. No. And so that was hard. It felt really hard to not be understood on the opposite end, coming from a place where I had spent 3 years struggling to be understood, carving out those relationships where I felt understood, and coming back to people who probably should understand me, but just did not get it. And not everybody. There were lots of people who took the time to figure out what was going on, or to think, and or even if they didn't understand, to hear me process it out loud and just be really good listeners and not judgmental and not thinking they understood when just because they took a vacation once.
Okay, so tell us more about what was hard coming back and transitioning back.
So I got to experience the ubiquitous grocery store meltdown in the cereal aisle. So on the outset, going to Japan, finding salt was my biggest challenge, finding food. Coming back to America and the abundance of options at the grocery store and the bigness and the tallness of the aisles and how many shelves there were and how loud it was. Japan is a very reserved and quiet country, and people are not loud in public. It is not the same. I could not go to Walmart for 4 years because every time I went to Walmart, I would have a full-blown panic attack.
Wow.
The aisles were too narrow, there were too many things, and the people were too loud. I couldn't do it. I can do it now, but I do have to process before I go in. Like, I have to stop and breathe and like, okay, what am I going to get? I'm getting these 3 things.
Why am I
here,
here,
and here. I can get them. I can get out. It'll be okay. I mean, 9 years later, I can barely do Walmart. It's totally screwed me up. But I remember going to a grocery store I typically went to before in my pre-Japan life just walking through the cereal aisle. I wasn't even buying any cereal, but the coffee's in the cereal aisle. And just walking past all of the 1,000 variety of cereals. But walking through and just like, there's just so many, and they're visually chaotic and it's loud. And the thing is, now I can read again.
So you have all the input coming in, all that stimuli.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I didn't put 2 and 2 together for a while, but eventually I figured out that part of the reason I was having these stress attacks was just I had input. Now in Japan, I couldn't read. I could tune it out. And like if I saw English, I would read it because it was exciting. I'm like, oh, a billboard with a little bit of English on it that's grammatically incorrect. Oh, it's not funny. But in America, it's everywhere. It's on the signs, it's on the walls, it's on the doors,
and
it's
you
on
weren't
the
used to
products, and all of a sudden I can read everything. And it's just so much. I remember like after that having to like, okay, I'm going to walk down this aisle because this one thing I need is there. I'm going to walk really fast past all of the other things. I don't need that right now. It's okay. I can now competently walk down the grocery store aisle and even buy cereal. It's amazing. And I'm actually happy again about the variety of Cheerios that I can get for my children. I love trying the new weird things. And so I'm feeling better about that. But it initially was really, really hard. And figuring out what it was exactly that was triggering to me about going down the grocery store aisle was really helpful.
So tell us a story about what helped, something that helped then or even has helped since then with some of that.
Permission to go slow has been really good. Permission to go slow, not to fill my day with tasks. One of the pieces of advice we received at our debriefing was don't give in to the American idea of busyness. That busyness equals value.
Oops. Like, I've definitely gotten into that.
Because, okay, so the example they gave was when somebody asks you how you doing, you say busy as like a badge of honor, right? How you doing? Right. Oh, busy. Oh, what'd you do this weekend? Oh, we were so busy. Yeah. Like if you don't say busy, like, well, what's wrong with you? You're lazy?
Right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Of course, you have to be busy. But giving ourselves permission to not add things to our plate just to add things to our plate, to intentionally, slowly add those routines and those rhythms to be the type of person that you want to be and do the types of things that you actually intend to do rather than just piling on activity for the sake of being busy and important in American society. And so learning to give myself that permission was just revolutionary. It didn't always look good from the outside. We had several voices speaking into our life at that time of transition, saying those Americanisms, right? Go work hard, make it look like you're trying hard so that people don't think you're lazy. It's like
interesting. Yeah. I'm glad that you got the advice that it was good and okay to go slow, that you didn't have to give in to the other advice that was the opposite of what you really needed at that time.
How long would you say it took you to feel settled again? I think people are curious.
So adjusting is one of those weird nebulous things. I love the word nebulous.
It's a nice word.
It's so hard to pinpoint. It wasn't necessarily a day where I'm like, okay, good, I'm officially adjusted, checked off the day on the calendar. But it was more like I didn't feel so chaotic every single day of the week, right? I mean, chaotic because I had tiny babies.
Yeah.
Right? That was the thing.
Yeah.
I felt chaotic because my husband's job was in transition. I felt chaotic because we needed to move again.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
But something that I was realizing as I was reflecting was where I had been placing my identity. And when I was able to untether my identity from Japan. Last year, I changed my Instagram handle from Japan Cat to not Japan Cat, to something else, right? That wasn't so Japan focused. And that process was painful and sad and way harder than it probably should have been. Looking from the outside, for a person who's never gone through that transition, it probably looked ridiculous. Like, why do you care so much? Why does that matter? But for me, it felt like I was giving up this huge chunk of who I was, who I wanted to be, who I saw myself as. But I mean, I at that point hadn't lived in Japan for 8 years.
Yeah.
And even though I'm still actively involved in ministry there, that's not who I am. And that's not who I am in my everyday. And so being able to have that to be able to wrestle with that and kind of not unconnect with that, but take that off of my identity, like take that badge off of my identity.
Kind of like closing a chapter.
Yeah. And it wasn't until last year, January 1st of last year, that I was able to close the door on that.
And you wrote a little article about that.
I did.
What's the website?
I did. A Life Overseas.
Okay.
We will link to that in the show notes for sure so that people can read about that.
Yes, for sure.
So we have what I like to call a choose your own adventure question. So basically this means you get to pick one of these questions. So we have a list of 3 questions that you get to choose from. So the first one is, what rhythms do you have in place which help you remember your time abroad? And the second one is, what do you do with all the feels, the memories, relationships, or love for the place and people where you were? And, or do you have a favorite funny story about either your time abroad or your transition back? So pick one of those questions. Which one of those do you want to answer?
I'm going to answer which rhythms that I have in place, which allow me to remember my time abroad.
Okay.
So at the beginning, I was telling you guys that I had my tea right over here. I went to my Japanese grocery store nearish to where I live. That's been something that I've added into my life periodically, going to places that remind me of Japan, giving myself permission to pay 300% markup on a bottle of tea that I would have paid 100 yen for, but costs like $354 in America, which once again feels extravagant, but I'm preaching back to 2011, Catherine, that you need to do the thing that you need to do to feel okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
Because this costs much less than a plane ticket to Japan, right? Drinking my
Right.
bottle of jasmine tea and eating my little cake of mushipan is cheaper than hopping a plane to Japan.
Absolutely.
Or cooking a Japanese meal every so often, one that we found comfort in, has been really, there's been a nice touch point for me and for our family, even for my kids who've never lived in Japan, when we'll do like Japanese dinner night or get snacks. And I go to the Japanese store, I also buy like snacks for everybody to share and try. And they love that is still a part of our story, even though they've never lived there. Like the oldest has.
Right.
So, one thing that I've been doing since we've been back, is, so I mentioned a couple times that our organization would do an annual gathering and training. During those annual trainings, teams would come to provide childcare for our kids. And
This was in Japan?
In Japan.
Okay.
Our organization in Japan, teams would come and provide childcare for our team. So I reached out after a couple years of being back, reached out to our organizers, to the VP, and said, hey, our church in America would like to send a team to do childcare maybe next year. Would that be something that would be a blessing to you guys? And she's like, yes, but can you do it in 3 months? Because this year we need a team. So I'm like, holy moly. So our church sent a team 3 months after we were invited to, and we've been sending them routinely every year. That's been available since.
So how many times, so you've gotten to go with those teams, and how many times have you been able to go back then to do that?
This fall will be our 5th time.
Oh, that's great.
We went, the last time we went
that.
was in January of 2020, right before COVID shut down.
Okay.
Right in time.
Well, praise God for that.
Right in time, right under the line. Like, I was so thankful that we got in. I got to see everybody, feel like I'm actually doing something important still and of value still. And also, selfishly, I get to see all my people.
Of course.
And,
Yes.
just-
what a multifaceted mutual blessing for them and for And for you.
Yeah.
And
And this
that's
year, Jillian's going to come with us.
Your
with the
daughter.
team.
Yay.
She's going to be my oldest daughter who's born there is going to be one of our junior assistants. She'll be a sixth grader this
fun.
year. And so she's going to come and
That
help.
is gonna
and
be so special.
She remembers no one, but they all remember her
Yep.
because she was the
Yeah.
tiny baby. And I'm really excited for her to be able to go and experience Japan with fresh eyes. So.
You mentioned how you're staying connected to Japan by organizing a church group to go and serve during those trainings in Japan and serve the kids. Can you tell us a final story about how your time abroad continues to add value to your life now?
Oh, wow. I think it has given me empathy like I never would have had otherwise. I mean, I'm generally a pretty empathetic person, but specifically for international peoples and missionaries and third culture kids whose families, I don't know if you guys in your podcast have talked about third culture kids at all.
Not yet. Not yet.
But that concept briefly that, so my culture is my first culture, right? I was born in America. I grew up in America. I moved to Japan, and that's my second culture. I'm not Japanese. I'll never be Japanese, but I can learn about it and kind of be a part of it, but it's still never my culture, right? But if I have a kid with me, their first culture isn't solidified yet. They're not fully American, but they're also never going to be fully Japanese either, no matter how long we live there. They're going to have this weird hybrid third culture. And so kids are often referred to as third culture kids who grow up in this cool hybridness, right? And so even though my own kid was only a third culture kid for almost 2 years, thinking that through, like what would it mean long term for us if we had stayed there? What are the things that I would want done for her if we had stayed here? And how can I love and support families who are in that situation? Is something that I find so much value in. And I'm just so happy that I understand even a tiny little fraction of it. Like I would never venture to say that I fully understand what it's like to have a third culture kid, because I don't. I only have my little 0 to 2 experience, right? But having even that little tiny modicum of understanding, I feel so much value in. Or even understanding what it means to transition so I can help. And I'm currently serving as the director of global missions at my church, where my goal is to help translate what it means to be a missionary to our congregation so that they can understand it's not just about the work, it's about the whole family, it's about the whole person, right? This holistic view of this person, what they're experiencing, what they're going through, how we can love and support them. And these are things I wouldn't understand. Things like giving them permission to buy the lunchbox, even though it looks a little too expensive, because you need to eat something and you're wasting your life wandering around the underground, right? That's a piece of advice I would never be able to give, except for the fact that I lived it and felt it so deeply in my soul. Having that understanding is something that I find joy and satisfaction in, that I can help bridge that gap for others.
That's so awesome. And we added that question because I think that sometimes it takes us a while to figure out, how do I use all these gifts that God has given me in this new context? So it's great to hear what you're doing, Kat. All right. What last word of encouragement or advice can you give to our listeners?
So I was thinking about, that idea of the yay and the yuck and living in that paradox. Our time in Japan was wonderful and it was hard. And our time in America is wonderful in different ways and hard in different ways. And sometimes I can feel that wistfulness of like, oh man, if I was in Japan, everything would be perfect right now. Or I only wish that this were the context I was in right now. It's like, you know what? There are wonderful things about where I am right now. And so one thing that I do every so often when I start to feel that, like, oh man, why, if only we were still there in Japan, I stop and I think, okay, if I were in Japan right now, what would I be missing? and like dumb things, like not like people and people I love and stuff like that. No, like what would I be missing right now? I couldn't have cheese. They don't really have good cheese in Japan. I love cheese and weird variety and charcuterie, and it's amazing. I love it. They don't really have that there. And so that's something I really enjoy. And I enjoy being able to have it here. So you know what? That's what I'm going to do. This weekend, I'm going to have some brie and some almonds, and it's going to be fantastic. Right?
Yeah.
And I used to do that same thing to myself when I was in Japan. Okay, I'm really missing America right now. And I have to stop and force myself to think, what can I do right now that I couldn't do if I were in America right now? Okay, well, I can ride the subway into downtown and take a nice walk and eat a cream puff from Beard Papa's. Okay, that's what I'm going to do on my day off this week. I'm going to go do that fun activity that I can only do right now. Because in this time and in this season, that's available to me. And so making the most of those opportunities in front of you. It doesn't take away the longing. It doesn't take away the sadness of being away from this relationship or that relationship on either end of the ocean. But helping to recognize, okay, where's the yay in this? Where's the good thing that I can only have right now?
I think that is really valuable because it, like you said, it doesn't take away the hard. It doesn't take away the grief, but it can help us get through it when we also, take time to notice and embrace the things that we do have available to us that we can be thankful for, and not to dismiss the hard, not to dismiss or ignore it, but to remember that that's not all that there is. And yeah, that's really great advice.
Thank you, Kat. I know that everybody is going to be really encouraged by your words.
Well, I hope so. I'm always hoping for the redemption. Sounds like too dramatic of a word, but the blessing to come out of the good and the hard and of my story, right? So I hope so.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm sure that it's going to be an encouragement and thought-provoking, and I know I'm grateful people are going to get to hear what you shared with us today. So thank you so much.
So good.
As we land this interview, we hope that you have been inspired by Kat Borba's stories about her repatriation to the United States from Japan. The empathy she developed for overseas workers influenced her current work mobilizing supporters from the U.S. faith community to volunteer at the very Japanese retreats she attended as a missionary. She continues to stay connected to Japan through service and also through intentional visits to Japanese groceries and eateries in her U.S. community. We hope that Kat's stories give you, dear listeners, permission to take things slow and to develop your own touch points to find the yay in your return. We know it might not take away the hard and grief of coming back, but it helps to see what the yays are right in front of us now. And go ahead, folks, buy that expensive tea, Natsukashi.
Come back next time for a Round Trip Stories Customs episode, where we'll reminisce, laugh, and converse about a random topic related to customs and culture. Want to be part of future conversations? Join our email list and get the podcast equivalent of TSA PreCheck, including a sneak peek at upcoming customs topics and an invitation to share your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. See the link in the show notes to sign up.
Thanks so much for listening, friends. We'll see you next time.